Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 10 out of Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. For this episode, I'm going to be speaking on Tank and going home in the worst way. Now, I met Tank at CFIC right when I got sent to prison, and we were actually already at CFIC for a little bit before Tank got there. But the thing is, we were new when we got there. Tank wasn't. I'm not sure what it was, if he went to the reception center and then went back to court after that. But he had already been to the reception center, and when he came back, he had a different energy than any of us. We all moved around like newcocks. We all moved around like we were still learning the basics, and this is just the basics of reception. We're getting comfortable with reception. We haven't even hit a main prison yet, which is a whole other level, but we're getting used to the burn, burn. You wake up to it. It's like an alarm. It's a bell going off, and it's just this ringing sound. And then all of a sudden, after like the third or the fourth one, your cell door pops, and you gotta run out, be fully dressed, and on the yellow line with your shirt tucked in at parade rest, standing straight up, hands behind your back, crossed like this. If you're not ready, the COs are gonna come in there and they're gonna flip you. They're not really gonna, slap you depending on what shift it is. But they're gonna come in there, they might make everybody PT, or they'll make us PT when we come back from breakfast. And breakfast is at like 4 or 5 in the morning. So when we wake up, everybody's dead tired. Everybody goes and sits down in the day room after they do count. So they come in, we're all in the yellow line, we're tired as hell. We basically just gotta sound off. You're either gonna yell out your name or you're gonna yell out a number, because they're either gonna go through the names or they're just gonna check off the number of inmates inside of the quad at that time. And if the number checks off, then they know they got their count right, and then they go into the next quad. So, we're all aching, and we're just getting used to this bullshit and having to march around and getting screamed at and PTing. But as we're absorbing what the DOC is doing to us, we haven't even gotten into the inner beefs. We haven't gotten into the gang division and really running down on each other, fighting each other, extorting each other. We're trying to take in prison. We're not even on that yet. And when Tank came in, he brought that with him. The second he came in, he wanted everybody to get TOH'd. And Tank was from Tampa. He was repping Cross Fletcher. And if you from Cross Fletcher and you watching this, I know I got a couple of people you might know Tank. You might know his daddy, because his daddy's a white dude. His mama's black. Tank's mixed. But his dad's a white dude, and, he be having the chains. He be looking fresh, this, that, and the third. I used to see Tank's pictures. But when Tank came in, he found out who was from Tampa. And he was friendly in a creep way. He would look at you like, oh, you from Tampa? Alright, we'll see. And anybody's gonna be like, fuck you mean, we'll see. Oh, what's up? You wanna tighten up? Like, that's how Tank was. And Tank started getting in there with people, enforcing TOHs upon people. Now, Tank fought a Zoe from Fort Pierce. I forget Jit's name, but I was actually cool with Jit. I didn't think he was, a bad person or nothing like that. And we didn't really have pressure with the Zoes inside of CFIC. Fat Zoe from Orlando, that was my dog in there. You know what I mean? I was cool with X-Men in there. There wasn't really any I-Nets, but we didn't have that gang division yet because, like I said, we're just getting used to prison. Once you actually hit a real prison, not a reception, that's when they tell you, like, look, we at war with them. You know what I mean? And y'all might be cool, but he might not like you after you go and splat one of his brothers, so be on point with that. Y'all might have to end that unless y'all just finna be in separate pots or whatever and try to avoid each other to maintain being cool with each other. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? We're gunning for him. His brothers are gunning for you. And it creates that division between us. But at this point in time, nobody was tripping. And Tank got into it with the Zoe from Fort Pierce. So they got into the cell, and this is the first time I got to see Tank fight. And He beat the shit out of the Zoe. I ain't even gonna lie. He beat the shit out of him. The Zoe tried to rush him, and he kicked him like a spot and dead in the chest. Just boom! So the kid flew back, and then Tank just went to hitting him. Bam, 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 bam. And Tank wasn't that big. I mean, he wasn't that short. He's probably around here, so maybe like 5'8", something like that. He wasn't that short, but he was strong, and he could fight. I'm not even gonna lie. He could fight. And after that little fight, there was no retaliation from the Zoes. It was pretty much just deaded because there was like 2 Zoes in there. It wasn't that big of a deal, and Tampa was deep. So he started TOHing people from Tampa. He TOH'd Lil Yella. He TOH'd Jit that I was talking about in the previous video with the Tampa Bay Rays on his chest. He just went to TOHing everybody and getting in there with them, jumping them, one-on-ones, whatever, beating their chest in as somebody else holds them down, stomping on them. He's enforcing all this. And we're new. So we're looking at it from the standpoint like it's like a hazing. Like this is something we're supposed to go through. If you say no to it, you're soft. Like you're supposed to be able to take this ass whooping and this acceptance. And through doing this, he was also bringing people home to MPI, Money, Power, Respect, which is a Tampa-based prison gang that started in prison. They don't really call themselves a gang, but if you ask anybody what's the difference between MPI and this, they can't really fucking tell you. Same thing with the Zoes, ZMF, Zo Mafia family. They don't consider themselves a gang. Both of them, I guess, consider themselves mafias, but we're just going to say gang because to the DOC, it's a fucking gang. There's no difference. So he's bringing everyone home to MPI that's from Tampa as long as they pass their TOH. They're pushing that 7, say round, all that. You know what I'm saying? A 7 and MPI, it's the same thing. Now, I'm not MPI. I was already blood before I went to prison. But I am from Tampa. So I was waiting for him to try me in a sense. Because he was the type of person like, you just felt like you couldn't trust him. He had that type of energy. Even though we're all around each other, he just had a creep vibe to him. Like you could tell something was in the back of his head, but you couldn't tell what. But I just never felt right around him. And you know, one time we're all in the cell. It's me, it's EJ, it's Tank. I think it was Fats from Nucio. There was a few of us in there. And you know, we all sitting inside of the cell. And Tank, more or less, he just keep playing. Like he's trying to play with the hands a little bit, not so much to the face, but just like, you know what I mean? Like putting them up and throwing them. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to play back. So I'm playing back. And then he tried to wrap up. And I kind of like wasn't letting him overpower the situation. But I also wasn't forcing it. I would only react if he acted. I didn't really want to take it there because if we're taking it there, we're taking it all the way there. But I'm not going to seem soft and not play back. And since we're supposed to be friendly because it's Tampa, home team, da-da-da. But at the same time, I got this creep vibe. Then he tried to be a little bit more aggressive and I yoked him and grabbed him up and had him. So he's trying to get out of this little situation I got him in. He scoops down to try to slam me, and he's strong. But I use my body weight against him, kick my legs out, put him in a headlock, and then slammed back. And his head slammed right off of the wall. And if you know about these prison walls, the paint is like, it's not smooth paint. It comes off, and you can actually get scratched from getting on these walls. So when I did that, my elbow got scratched, and his head got scratched, and, you know, bing, he hit his head. And then I let go. I'm like, all right, Jit, stop playing. And he's like, damn, boy, you hit my head. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? You playing around. And I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to keep it cool with this kid. But at the same time, if it's pressure, like, we're just going to bump. But we never did. And that little show of force was enough for him to not try anything else with me. You know what I mean? And it was weird because, like I said, it's almost like training at a gym. When you have a sparring partner that's a coach, you don't want to be over the top with it out of respect because you feel like if he does something, you're supposed to just go with it. But at the same time, You're not gonna let somebody just bitch you. Now Tank ended up getting shipped to Sumter CI before me, EJ, Yella, everyone that came with me. And when I hit Sumter CI, he wasn't in C Dorm. So we're asking what happened to Tank? What happened to Tank? I'm hearing mixed things. I'm not sure if it was C Dorm or if he actually went to the main compound. But I heard Tank broke it off. And then he checked in. Those two things right there, it was like, wait a minute. Because Tank was just on that at CFIC with everybody. It didn't matter who. He was about fading. He was about all that tough shit. You know what I mean? And those two things don't really make sense. Like, all right, they said he broke it off, which means he's getting extorted. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, y'all got that. Y'all got that. Take whatever y'all want. All right, boy, we finna, when you get money, you're gonna buy us this. Or when you get your food in the morning, we're taking this. But then he checked in. Checking in is walking up to the CO and I'm scared for my life. I need to go in PC. They cuff you up. They take you to confinement. Well, why would you check in if you broke it off? Because once you broke it off, it's over with. They're not going to keep fucking with you. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, if he broke it off and didn't pay and then he checked in, that's more or less how he would get away with it without actually paying. You know, some people say you never break it off until you actually pay. And I know people that have done that and they'll be like, all right, y'all got that. And then the second they stop, they'll wait like 2 days, then they'll go and cut somebody. You know what I mean? They'll be like, oh, he broke it off. Well, he never paid y'all. He played y'all. And then he cut y'all. You know what I'm saying? But Tank didn't do none of that gangster shit. So I heard he was in fucking PC. And my whole time at Sumter CI, I never seen him. Never heard about him. Nothing. I get transferred to Lancaster CI. I hit Lancaster's main unit after orientation. I get transferred over to the work camp. When I hit Lancaster's work camp, they put me inside a P-dorm. P-dorm was the 21 and up dorm. So it was 21 to 24 years old. I got a TOH in there. I lined up 2 people in there. After P-dorm, they put me in I-dorm, which was 19 to 18. This is where I was supposed to be at. I'm 19 years old, but it was full at the time. I get put inside of there. I see Tank. And when I see Tank and he sees me, I could see a reaction on his face that I've never seen before. It was like he was looking at a fucking ghost. And I'm looking at him like, why is he looking at me like this? He comes up to me and he talks to me. Everyone else that was in there, you know, there was only 2 people in there from Tampa. One was Lil Ron from Robles Park, who I'm going to make a video on because he fucking played. The other one was a jit named Tyler. He ended up breaking it off. And he was like an undercover jizzle. But that was my dog. Even though he was extorted, like I didn't give a fuck about that because he wasn't trying to put on in prison and that gangster. He just wanted to go home type shit. And he was big as fuck. He was strong as hell and was still extorted on the low. It's crazy. But that's how prison is. So Tank comes up to me. And he more or less tries to finesse the situation. Along the lines of, hey, bro, what happened at Sumter stays at Sumter. And at that moment, I knew what it was. I'm the only one here that knows you broke it off and you checked in. I'm the only one here that knows you really pussy. You really scared inside. And I don't know what it was, if he was comfortable fighting, but he wasn't comfortable with the raises and the pokers and the thought of shit like that happening to him, or he didn't have the heart to hit somebody up. But I knew the truth. You know what I mean? And I'm not finna cover up your bitch ass activity. That's what I'm gonna be fake for you because you're fake. How the fuck does that work? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna cover up for your fraudness. Like, nah, bruh. So, you know, another Tampa jit get moved in. My dog Ace from the West. Shout out to Ace. We was in county together. We was in prison together. I mean, I ain't finna cap the bro. I know, bro, this is my dog. And I tell him, like, bro, he wasn't on shit. You know what I'm saying? And Tank had no animosity towards me. No animosity towards anyone. And you could tell by his vibe inside of this dorm, it was so different than when I met him. He had no respect in the dorm. At all. He had no respect. And even though I knew what was up, and once I put it out there, it was like everyone already kind of had that feeling anyway. Because he was so low-key when he came. And I feel like he brought on that persona because if he came in on that gangster shit, it would have got tested. But because he came in on that quiet, low-key, this is the work camp. This shit was soft. I mean, you had people that got cut. You had people that got flipped. But TOH's was nothing more than fighting, and it really wasn't. You had to do something bad to get hit up at the work camp. Like, that was a bag dropped on your head. Somebody wanted you gone. Or you violated someone on the main unit and one of their people was at the work camp and chewed your shit up. And more or less, Tank, it was just, a shut mouth. You know what I'm saying? He might have came around and talked a little bit and tried to catch a vibe with somebody from Tampa, talk about some street shit. But I'll never forget when he went home. The day that he went home was early in the morning. Packs all this shit, gets all this shit ready. Bloods and MPI are usually tied in the JIT camps. It's called 57 Love. The 5 for the Bloods, the 7 for Tampa. You put it together, it's 57 Love. When Tank went home, he turned around and said, man, fuck y'all. Fuck 57 Love. Tank was supposed to be MPI. After something CI, he was not repping no fucking MPI. And to say, fuck 57 Love. Everybody from Tampa, we was on the rec yard the next day. And it was just understood, like, he's most likely gonna have some smoke in the city. You know what I mean? Because you went against the grain. Like, not only were you repping something straight from the city, and you're actually from the city, like, you from a hood. You went out bad, bro, and you gonna say, fuck 57 Love. He was green-lighted that morning when he said that. If he was ever to come back to prison, because I believe he ended his bid or he went to county or something like that and had probation time, and there was a chance that he could come back, and he would come right back to Lancaster, right back to the work camp, and get splat the second he came. Tank went out in the worst way. He acted like he was this big bad character until he hit a real compound and that flag got pulled. And then he tried to play low-key, soft, this and that. Shh, don't tell nobody I was pussy, bro. And then when he goes home, hey, fuck 57 Love. Because can't nobody get at him now. You know what I mean? He went home in the worst way. And people like that, it's like the equivalent of people that talk shit on YouTube or talk shit behind a cell door, put on this facade and act like something, and then when some form of pressure is applied, all of that image cease to exist. Now, when I say, pressure being applied, and when I speak on people that I consider my brothers, that I know from inside of prison, I consider them my brothers aside from gang affiliation because we held it down for each other when pressure was applied. Whether he was into it, whether I was into it, we had each other's back. We knew what came with it. We knew what level of violence we would go through, and we had the understanding we would go through it together. And that is what made the friendship and bond so solid. And the only thing that I can think is comparable would be the military in combat and meeting your comrades inside of a combat zone, going through that experience together, but having each other's backs, remaining loyal, remaining solid until you go home, until you EOS. I made some of the greatest friendships because we went through some of the greatest hardships together, and through that, a lot of people that had on a facade, that had on a mask, that had to try to portray an image, were exposed or exposed themselves throughout the process. But that is prison. You will be around fakes You will be around frauds, and you will recognize those same type of people when you get out in the street. And if you're lucky, you can recognize those types of people before you get too close to them. Because if they're self-destructing and you're riding with them, you're going to destruct with them. And there's a chance that they could land you in prison based on the actions that they made and following them down a destructive path. But hey, it's 10 out of J. I'm rocking with y'all like y'all rocking with me. Till next time.